two things you should know from that. We're not talking about Lexington in a way that we're coming down to tell Paducah what they should be doing. That's not the goal here. Certainly, we want to share some of our experiences, some of the successes we have back in the Bluegrass region, but it's not to say that Paducah has to do it that way. Second, you need to know that a lot of what we talk about, it's not like Lexington came up with it. I said we borrowed. Tyrone said in the car we stole it from other cities across this nation. And then what we did was we modified things to make it fit for Lexington. So I hope that some of what we share today, maybe it will be helpful for Paducah in a modified version that makes sense. So at Commerce Lexington, where I served on the board and was chair of the board, and was also Tyrone's vice chair of minority business and development, at Commerce Lexington, we go to a different city in the nation every year across the United States. We've been to Omaha, Nebraska. We go to Florida, Tennessee, Texas. We've been in Austin and Madison, Wisconsin, and
Baltimore,
Maryland, which is an important one to mention.
Yes.
So we take about 200, 250 people from the community every year, business leaders, education leaders, political, government, nonprofit, a good mix of the community, and we leave Lexington for 3 days. And we spend 3 days in a city that we have vetted, that we look at ideas that they're doing that might be interesting back in Lexington so that we can do things better. Or sometimes we go to those cities so we don't, and we learn how to come back to Lexington and not make the same mistakes. But we spend 3 days together coming up with a lot of ideas and collaboration, and then we go back home and we put some of those programs and initiatives in place, modified. And that's some of what we'll talk about today. But again, not here to tell Paducah what to do, but hopefully share. My background and experience is with business is mostly in the law firm side. One, being a partner in a law firm here in Paducah, we were a medium-sized business, dealing with a lot of the same issues that you all are, from payroll to client development to keeping clients to funding and loans when needed, all of the things that come with the business, even though it was a law practice. And then two, my experience in representing a number of businesses in this community and then back in Lexington who were my clients. And so Tyrone is going to bring a lot of the meat today. I'll call him the play-by-play. I'll play color commentator with both sports analysis, so I will interject along the way. But we want to talk about toolkits for success. So I'm going to jump in. What I will share initially on the toolkits for success, I think you've already covered, but it's absolutely worth emphasizing again from my law practice time. Small businesses, two things you need. Your two best friends. Number one is not the lawyer. We're the second best friend. Your first best friend is a CPA and an accountant, your CPA accountant. And I mean somebody who's really a CPA and accountant, not your friend, not your church member, not your family member, not somebody who holds themselves out that they can do your taxes. Truly for a business, you all have heard that, the accountant, CPA, making sure your taxes are paid on time, on quarterly, you're prepared to pay that bill. That was the biggest shock of my life when I became a partner and had to make that quarterly tax payment being self-employed. But that was the number one thing that tripped up a lot of my clients. And I know you've been through this. I hope you came to that session, but that's the number one toolkit is a good accountant. And number two, yes, it would be the lawyer. Following the advice of the accountant to set you up appropriately. If you're a sole proprietor, should you be? Is that the best thing for tax purposes? It's certainly not for personal liability purposes in the business that you do. So having a good lawyer in place to figure out if you need to be an S corporation, an LLC, or whatever the corporate structure may be, unless the accountants say, no, it's worth the risk, stay a sole proprietor. So those are your two things that I want to emphasize today in terms of being part of the toolkits for success as far as my part, and then I'll interject later. Tyrone, take it away.
Well, I think I can sit down now. Just kidding. No, really, the one thing that we've done, I think that we want to say again that Lexington is a work in progress. The minority community is not the majority in Lexington, and so you really have to work at it. And one thing that I had to do when I started at Commerce Lexington. I grew up in Detroit, so I came to Lexington by way of a transfer, and that didn't work out, and I wound up, at the Chamber of Commerce, which was a pretty good gig. Don't get me wrong, but my sensibilities were totally different, and the one thing that I wanted to do was really take 6 or 7 months and analyze everything that was going on in Lexington, because they wanted me to run this department as a one person and independent. And the worst thing about that is when those of you who've ever run a department or tried to be successful at something, and you look around and you don't have 6 or 7 people anymore to put in motion. Everything that puts in motion, you got to do it yourself. So the first thing I did was try to figure out, and I think this is what you have to do here, is like, what was going to be the sphere of influence? Who was going to back me at every turn? And that had to be the Commerce Lexington Board of Directors. That had to be the time then, and I can tell you exactly 17 years later that is the time today. When I want to convince anybody to do anything, I go to the board first, get their vote, and then they go out into the community and help me bring on the things that I really want to do. So I have a lot of tentacles, and I'm working through that. A minority business development program in the majority area is, it's really tough. Some people want to do it out of the good of their heart, so they will put together a program that what I call is a charity program. And that means that you have a couple companies or 10 companies that really get excited about it and they'll put it up money for 2 or 3 years, and then they'll get a very qualified person in, and the person will get frustrated, and in 4 years they'll quit. That's the way most programs go, and Commerce Lexington didn't do that. I along with my superiors, taught Commerce Lexington in making minority business development an equal part of the economic development strategy. So long term, looking out, whether I am the individual that is in the seat of Senior Vice President for Community and Minority Business Development or not, in economic development strategy, that includes that will always include community and minority business development. And I think that's really, really important, because so many things take long term. And if you look in the middle there on the board, that's why I have them as the target. They are the supporter of community and minority business development. I don't have to go out and look and beat for my salary on a regular basis or any of that. I go out and I work with people. That being said, I'm allowed to work with, because of that strategy, I'm allowed to work with 80 to 90 people a year. Now, you have to work with that many people to do what we do, because you're going to have people. If you're inviting everybody in the door, then you're going to meet them where they are, and meeting those individuals where they are is, you're going to have some that are neophytes, you have some that are in existing business, you have some that just need a new line that they want to add, and it goes on and on and on. So I have the freedom to really do that. The thing that we have done successfully, I think, is create a complete sphere of partnerships. If you look around the circle there, the one thing that we have is that for 21 years.
Tyrone, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
So we talked about this in the car some too. So in Lexington, and you talked about it today, a position like yours is within inside of Commerce Lexington, the chamber.
Right.
And in a lot of cities that we've seen and where we've traveled, that position may be inside. But is that the place that it has to be housed?
It is not. It is not. I think that you have to figure out in your particular area where your sphere of support is. But if that position is going to be housed there, it should be the people that can help you the most, because one person, you're not going to be able to do everything, but you can get other people that have influence to help you move the needle on things like, for instance, we have the Access Loan Program. The Access Loan Program is one of the most successful things that I do on a regular basis. We have a 3-tier opportunity where I bring someone in along with the help. I have an exclusive partner called the Small Business Development Center, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with them. We have a gentleman sitting right back here, and we use them directly and exclusively. So they bring a business plan, financials, and a completed package to me. I bring a small committee together, and they've always been formed. We've been friends forever, and they come together when I ask them. They review the loan, and they review the loan in a way that says, okay, we may not fund it, but there's somebody in your 26 lenders that are going to fund this loan. So then we bring it to the table. That all takes time. That is not a short shrift. But what I will tell you is that we've done $24 million in those loans. Average loan, around $80,000 or so. Real small business loans, and we have a 97% approval rating when we get to that full committee. And I also, what I'm proud of is that the bankers asked me if they could meet on a Friday morning. Said, the best morning for us is a Friday morning. And so we meet on a Friday morning at 9 or 10 o'clock. I always get 19 or 20 of those 26 banks in the room, and that's pretty good, when you have vacations and all that kind of stuff. But I always have it in the room. I always take an attendance, and they are attentive. That small business owner gets one credit report pulled because I have a bank that pulls a credit report, so you're not going around getting dinged. These are a lot of inside baseball things, but there are things that hurt small businesses when they have to go around from bank to bank to bank to to get their plan looked at, and then they don't get funded. But you used to have a 700 credit rating, now you have a 644, and nobody wants to fund you. It happens a lot. So we have taken those things and really reduced them down to a system that really works. And I think that's one of our most successful programs. I mean, I was just telling Danny, it popped in my head, things that I have forgotten about. I have a couple bread truck drivers that we funded way back in 2001 when I didn't work for the chamber, but I worked for another entity, and I was on the committee. And one of them has a granddaughter and his daughter running the same truck route. That's life-changing for a $60,000 loan. I do remember the amount of the loan. I mean, that's life-changing for those people because I can tell you that they fit in that low to moderate income level, when I met them. And I would say now that they don't. And I see them periodically now that I've gotten acquainted with the granddaughter. I see them periodically in Kroger and all those places. And we have a lot of those things out there. We have a lot of placements in places like that. Now, there are larger loans, but I get a kick out of those, people that just want to do something to change the life of their family.
And we didn't make up the Access Loan Program. Again, one of those that was successful, and I can't remember which city we learned about the Access Loan. Not important, but it came from.
It is important. No, it is important. It was, they had a loan program, something like it in Nashville. And we took, what we did was we started with a nonprofit that I worked for, and we started with 11 banks. And we brought people in the room. At that time, times change, but you have to morph with your program. Times change. That program, when we started at the time, you could have a bunch of bankers sit around the table, and we only had senior lenders. So those lenders could make decisions right there at the table up to $100,000. So we could really kick the loans out. You get to 2008, 2009, nobody's making decisions. Everybody is taking that back to the bank. Am I right? Everybody's taking that back to the bank and getting a second set of eyes or a committee to look at it. I don't care if it's $50,000. So times change, but the Access Loan Program has endured because one thing about Lexington, and I think it's a lot of what Danny has said to me about this area, is that it is a very attentive community. When they get involved in something that really works, they want to work hard at it, and they keep going. So I have bankers change in and out. They switch banks, but they always want to stick with the Access Loan Program.
So before I interrupted you earlier, you were talking about your position happens to be housed at Commerce Lexington, which was what works for Lexington. Then you were getting ready to talk about some of the important partnerships both part of Commerce Lexington and outside. And so would you
Right.
touch on those?
Oh, sure. This is fluid. One of the things that we did was that we knew that the chamber has nothing to let, right? We don't know. The only thing that passes through us is that somebody says, "Hey, I have a bid for so and so, and do you have any minority or women-owned businesses that are a part of that?" Right. So we don't really have anything to let. So what we did was we convinced one of the mayors to come up with a minority liaison position, and that is a person that basically is a full-time staffer at what we call Lexington Fayette Urban County Government, and they help minorities and women get through all the minutia that goes on in city contracts. You know, the first thing you got to know about a city contract or a federal contract is the first 32 pages probably don't mean much. You know, they want those last few pages, but it is daunting. People look at it and they go, "Oh my goodness, you know, I can't do that." This person helps you through that. We started with, we're going to call it LFUCG. We started with them. The next thing we did was we convinced the school system. And, you know, God bless his soul, Manny, who, you know, was, you know, he came from Rhode Island.
A former superintendent.
Passed away. And he made one presentation to him, and he believed in it. He put a minority liaison in his, you know, in the Fayette County Public Schools. So now we got two. And remember, Lexington doesn't have a lot of large corporations, and I'll get to that in a minute. But we don't have a lot of large corporations. But what we do have is the University of Kentucky. Now, I've been in Commerce Lexington 17 years, but it took George Floyd and Breonna Taylor's murders to get the University of Kentucky to move on that minority liaison. And what I mean by saying that is that the Black faith leaders went after those incidents. We didn't have uproarious things happen in Lexington. We didn't have people burning buildings. We didn't do that kind of stuff. But the Black faith leaders got together, and it's funny. The Black faith leaders is what they're called, but there are 67 churches in Lexington, and they're of all faiths. They just like the name, the Black faith leaders. It's Methodist, Presbyterian, all kinds, you know. But they all got together, and they went to the university, and they decided what they wanted. They came to the chamber, and they wanted us to be the facilitator. So we have this big room of folks that thankfully eventually got reduced. And we have regular every other month meetings. And what we do, what happened at the University of Kentucky is that they put a procurement person in, and the benefit, the beauty of all of those things is that in every instance, we had a minority-owned business that were able to receive their first six-figure contracts in those entities within a year, within getting those people sovereign. And with the University of Kentucky, it was just within months, because they got a very experienced person that had been at Fayette County Public Schools, and I won't go into that, but she was there, and they hired her away from the school system, and she was just, you know, Johnny on the spot. And Marilyn Clark, I have to say her name because she is just, you know, she's learning that university system, and she was able to get, you know, to get your first profitable six-figure contract was a big deal for these people. And now they feel like, hey, I got in. You know, now I know how to do this. Now I'm going to be doing these things on my own. And so that is what the minority liaisons, and that's why we separated in this circle. That's why we separated those partnerships, because each one, I don't want you to think that, you know, we have it all figured out and we were able to do it in a couple days and everybody went along with us. There's we can sit down and talk about the minutia and the people that you have to put together to make all that work, but we won't. One of the best things that we've done, and it was done from the grassroots, is that we have a Minority Business Expo in Lexington. And this year is going to celebrate its 21st year. And we always have a national speaker, and we have over 500 some odd businesses that come and attend. And we have procurement people from Toyota on down, you know, whether it's our electrical company, our gas company, you know, companies, all those procurement, you know, these other entities that I've talked about, the Bluegrass Airport, which has a phenomenal reputation for minority participation and women-owned businesses also. So those people come together and they support, along with some of our banking entities, they support this expo, and we are able to get people together just for 2 days and do some best practice training. We have one-on-ones with procurement people in those companies. Sometimes it's just a reacquaintance. People stop by for 2 minutes, talk to a procurement person. Sometimes it's a new business, but we pull people from the expo is so popular. We pull people from as far away as Cleveland to come down to the expo and look at where you are in this border state. You would have people coming from all over if you decided to do anything like that, because you're better than us. You're border state. I mean, Danny wouldn't take me to Illinois, but I wanted to.
I'll make it him to Illinois before tomorrow.
I just wanted to drive over there.
Well, with the expo, and I should mention that's not under Lexington, Commerce Lexington, the Chamber. It's not under any organization. I will say that the city of Lexington has been good about allowing a staff person to consistently be part of that effort, and we get to keep our materials at the city, our supplies. But the expo is made up of a community board, group of citizens that care about this. And we have a very small board, and then we just have a volunteer committee that works throughout the year to begin planning that expo that takes place each August. And it's become the main thing. Louisville doesn't have one anymore. We're the best thing happening. That expo, I should say, not we, is the best thing happening from Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, this region. And we want you all to come up to that expo at the beginning of next August. I've talked to Dr. Reese about it. Tyrone and I have talked about that. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So we'd love to see those of you here today come up to Lexington. We'll get that information for you. The fee is not a lot to be able to attend, but.
But I will pay for 10 of you to come up.
He told me that on the way down too, so I wanted to throw it up there.
I will definitely pay. We'll figure it out somehow, but we'll definitely pay for 10 of you to come up to get a view of that, and hopefully you'll do something else. I will tell you that everything that we've done, and I'm sort of jumping around here now, but everything that we've done, we've pulled it in from somewhere else, and I'm kind of proud of that, because I've been able to get with a group of people, Danny and a gentleman named Ed Holmes, and now Larry Forster. In 17 years, I've only had 3 chairs, and most of you know how chambers work. You kind of like 2 or 3 years on the board and you get somebody new. I've been lucky to have this consistency with, really, really good vice chairs that have a stake in growing minority businesses. And the loan program, by the way, is open to everyone. That's another benefit. The Access Loan Program. When I was at Community Ventures, the one thing that we talked about was never turn down a good idea. They're never turned down a good idea. So really, in a town that has about 14% minority, we do about 35% over the course of time. Last year when I did the numbers, 35% in history of our loans are done with minorities. So we beat the population. Another thing that I'll throw out, just a little caveat, when you have something that works, and I have some one-sheeters on the tables. The one thing that you'll find is that if you have something that really works, that really is good for the community, you'll find yourself doing some things that are totally out of character. The one thing we did during the pandemic was that we contracted with the city to do grants up to $25,000 for small businesses. Everybody had trouble. And there were a lot of people, especially minority and small women-owned businesses, that were outside of the PPP area, or they didn't know how, they didn't have a bank or whatever, So we were able to do those grants. We did $6.9 million worth of grants. I was the lead and contracted to do it. I had 7 volunteers from my Access Loan Committee that dedicated over 600 hours to get that money, to get that $6.9 million out over the course of a year and a half. That's the kind of thing that happens, I feel like, when you have something really good that people really care about. They go like, well, we want to kind of make sure that those people get help too. So I had people volunteering to help me. And the morphing of that is that I raised a lot of money, and now I have an assistant. You know, that's just my petty thing. But you know, that's that. I was really proud of that, only because of the fact that, you know, they volunteered, and the city saw us and said, "Well, your access loan program, you know, you could just do that." You know, of course, it wasn't just do it. You know, there were 15-hour days in there, but it was still, it was one of those, I think, one of those beautiful things. And the emails and the cards that we collected, that we printed, that people were saying that $10,000 saved the building that they were in because they were behind in the rent, or, you know, whatever it was. You know, people were sending these cards in, and, you know, you just sit there and you read these emails. You're like, okay, I guess I better get to work. This is really doing something for folks. So I, of course, I'm showing that to my superiors. We've also worked with the companies that we've had. I drove around town here today with Danny. Well, rode around town today.
I was
with
doing
Danny.
the driving.
Yeah, I didn't know where I was going. And the one thing, Danny pointed out a lot of the companies that he was affiliated with, a lot of the companies that presented, that he thought, and we both thought, that presented opportunities, to offer procurement opportunities out there to minority and women-owned businesses if some type of collective was put together. We've had people in our Minority Business Accelerator. I'll tell you a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
I don't mind at
Okay.
all.
But, you know, the one thing, this is one of those things where we thought we couldn't do it. In 2012, you know, we got all the other programs rolling, you know, whatever, but I knew we needed something else for scalable minority businesses. The thing is, most programs out there that had scalable minority businesses, and you have to decide to scale, you know, had most of the program, they started at $1 million. Central Kentucky didn't have enough, corporations that were owned by minorities that did $1 million. So we knew that we'd have to go lower, but we went to the most successful program. Danny, along with a whole crew of people, was gracious enough to go with us. We went to Cincinnati, and that is just a creme de la creme of minority business accelerators. It was initiated by P&G, Procter & Gamble, and I love the story because, when they started, they decided that, we really have to do something. And when you have big corporations like Kroger, P&G, you name it, that had regional headquarters in Cincinnati, they put together, it was about 20 companies, and they basically told the minority businesses, you will scale up or partner up somehow. You will scale up or partner up somehow and get in, and you're going to do, or you can't do business with us. They told the majority businesses that you will do business with these businesses or you can't do business with us. Both. And if you don't agree with that, they had them in separate rooms before they brought them together. And I love this. There's a gentleman that tells a story. His name is Carl Satterwhite, and his presentation is enjoy the wine and cheese, because they told him, said, if you don't agree with this, we have wine and cheese for you. We'll move on. They opened the doors, and that program is legendary in economic development coffers now. But Danny and we spent a whole day, the six of us, listening, and I wanted all those eyes, I wanted all those people to come back and tell me what they saw. So we wound up speeding forward. We wound up putting together a program that launched in June of 2013, and Messer Construction. This was a unique situation. Messer Construction put together, I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but they do go around the state. But they put together a program that was drywall and hardware. And it was a $3.25 million contract. And they let a minority company bid on that. It happened to be that our accelerator wanted. So we launched with that $3.25 million contract. It eventually grew to $5.6 million. And that was on the University Kroger field that is up now. So that's how we launched. That's what we've done, and to get started. And that program, last year, we did $12 million, which is our biggest year. We did I think it's about $12.2 million. The numbers kind of run together after a while. But
and we weren't Cincinnati, so we needed, again, businesses that were
right.
not $1 million, and so the threshold we set was, I believe, was $250,000,
Right.
and companies that had been in business at least, I think it was 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
so at least 5 years in business, minority, women-owned, and annual revenue for at least $250,000. That's what worked for Lexington. We could not do the $1 million. That may or may not be the amount if Paducah had something like that. The other thing was we didn't know how many companies we would get to participate when we came back. Our goal was, on the majority-owned side, if we can get 7 or 8 companies in Lexington to participate. We're not Cincinnati. We don't have Kroger. We don't have Procter & Gamble. 7 or 8 majority-owned companies willing to do business with minority businesses would be success in Lexington. And we only started the accelerator with 3 businesses, grew it to 5, and I think we have 6 in the accelerator program right now.
And 3 of those are turned over. EHI, which was recognized as one of the 10,000, Goldman Sachs 10,000 business programs, they basically were able to leave the accelerator. We have our accelerator is not, it's not an incubator. It's not one of those things where, you do well, and then we kick you out. You stay as long as you want to create new partnerships. And what we did was something that that they did not do. I didn't have the bandwidth to be the person that go out and that went out and created those relationships and that kind of thing. So we came up with money and we hired a consultant. And we have a consultant that works directly with the businesses and reports to me. So that is how we do it. In Cincinnati, the staff runs, and they have a staff of like 5 that run those businesses. And of course, we just did it. We found a way to do it our way. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to sit down with a group of people and figure out what is going to work, because minority businesses, in my mind, and this is what I tell them personally, when we sit down and said, you are nothing but a business with a designation. You're going to need access to capital and access to opportunities just like everybody else. So let's get everything right when it comes to what is going on in your business. If you've had good years, and I try to get people to tell me the truth. I've been in business. I've owned a janitorial company. I own an insurance company. So I know what it's like to fail. I know what it's like to have to pick yourself up, and get started again. So I try to say to people, let's talk about your year. Okay, was this a great year? Okay, you want to borrow money. Was it a great year? Why are you borrowing money? And do you want to have the same year that you had last year with this new money, or do you want to start creating new years, better years? And that's how we talk about moving forward. That's how we talk about moving down the line. And there really have, not because of us, but because I don't do any work for the entrepreneur. I never take credit for that. I will take credit that we loaned them money, okay? Or I'll take credit that they're still in business 10 years down the road and they were a startup. That's important, because that doesn't happen very often. But I'm not going to take credit for any projects that they complete and that kind of stuff. If they want me to come take a picture, I'm all in. I'm all in. But I'm going to ask them first. I'm going to ask them, do you want me to, hey man, you finished that project over there. Can we come take a picture, and can we do this? Can we do that? Can we put it in the business focus? Are you comfortable with that? Most times they say yes. And we go out there and we do that, and we get to promote them to the chamber community in general. And basically what we're saying to the 1,900 members that we have is that this is what we're doing. This is what those for the big companies. This is what your dollars are going for. Those who support economic development, especially, this is what we're doing with the money that you do to support my salary and the other 6 people that work there.
And so what we do is we take those businesses, and I want to make sure we do come back to that toward the end as one of the toolkits for success. But Tyrone and his team and the volunteers on the committee that he has, they begin to work with those businesses who have the skill, they have the ability, they're just looking for the opportunity and the know-how in order to get those business opportunities with majority-owned businesses and grow their revenue. And so Tyrone and his team work with those businesses just to make sure everything's in place, crossing T's, dotting I's, everything that the majority-owned companies are looking for in order to get them in the door to do the business. Then it's up to the business accelerators to do the quality work so that it continues to foster those relationships. And some of the thing we'll talk about, one thing we'll talk about here before we end on that toolkit is also developing the relationships. We'll need to make sure we talk about that. It's not just showing up and doing good work, but it's gaining that trust and developing those relationships with some of the companies.
Well, I want them not to need me. That's the number one thing. I don't want you to need me. We'll through the with the bully pulpit of the chamber, we'll try to open any significant door that there is, and I believe that because we've been able to do it, and because of the people that are affiliated on the board of directors at the chamber. So I feel like that if it's good for the community, that I have people that will help me get that in. But I love those folks that get out there and they come back to me sometimes and say, hey man, I'm in Indiana now. I'm over in Ohio, doing some work. They have one guy. If you saw him, he is the most understated. He's our largest business in the accelerator now. He's the most understated individual that you would ever seen. But in the course of 5 years, this gentleman has built a construction cleanup company that has worked for Great Construction. First, he started up and down the Eastern Seaboard. This week, he's in Texas. He's going to be doing 2 projects for Great Construction in Texas. He also owns. He's a vegan, so he owns a restaurant in Lexington that is run by some other folks. And he bought some land. He's getting ready to do VR. He's getting ready to do little cabins for the people that like to, I don't know, I guess they call it adventure hiking. I call it going trying to kill yourself. Because they have this. Now, really, if you've seen these places that they go, but I guess in Rowan County, I went out with him and saw the property. So he's getting ready to build these houses where he's going to sign up and rent them all out. That's just in the course of 5 years. That is somebody making their own decisions. That is somebody not asking anybody for anything anymore. That's what this is all about, is growing, not just to be sustainable, but to be independent, but to go do the things that you're passionate about. I have small businesses that I find out, I pick up a piece of paper and they're now supporting Black Achievers at the Y. And I said, I've always wanted to do that because I went through Black Achievers at the Y. We have some programs that support young men from sixth grade to 12th grade. To 12th grade.
That's part of the public school system.
Right,
yeah.
Part of the public school system now. But before it was an independent program. And now, these individuals, you pick up the brochure and you see their name. Number 1 gold sponsor, Elaine Allen. That's the kind of stuff that makes me proud. I'm the old guy now. So that's the kind of stuff that makes me proud when they are going out there and they're doing things that they're passionate about. And I think that that's what it is all about when you grow a business and you start giving back to the community. It's not a requirement that you do anything, but when they do, that just goes to show you what they were all about in the first place. And they were the kind of people that you thought they were.
And so like Tyrone and I, we came into town today. I jumped off the exit at Calvert City, wanting to just begin to see some of the industry sectors. And we were thinking about you all and you can share with us what those opportunities look like in this Paducah region. But with his fresh eyes, We drove down the road at Calvert City looking at all those companies. First thing out of Tyrone's mouth was, who in this crowd tonight could do the supplies that they need, be it for the restrooms or the company or the offices, who can make sure and broker the supplies for those companies if those companies would commit to steering some of that work toward minority businesses. We saw the people out on the grounds. Are they contractors maintaining the grounds at these companies, or are they in-house? Most of them probably have cafeterias. Who's handling the food? Is that coming from the outside? Is there a way to manage the cafeteria? Is there a way to be responsible and broker the food that's coming into the cafeterias? And then we came into town and we saw the hospitals and started thinking about the different contractors and suppliers and janitorial services and everything that may be contracted out. We're not trying to be the only ones from the minority and women-owned businesses. Yes, that'll be great, but give us a piece of the pie is what we started to think about. We looked at the utility companies, the banks, all of the different industry sectors. They have people on the outside doing something. And the question is, how do we position you and position ourselves so that we're able to get a piece of that pie in the business they're doing?
They all procure, all of them. They procure something, and why not start? And the one thing that I try to encourage people to do, like I always hear that people want big government contracts. Okay, do you really? Do you really? Or do you have the capacity? Because you get a big contract. The worst thing in the world is to get a big. I could tell you stories about people that got a big contract and couldn't fill it. That's a nightmare, And the bad part is, to be quite honest, and I don't care if it's a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business. If they fail, they won't do it the next time. They somehow magically that will not go to a minority or woman-owned business next time. It's not magic. What you want to do is that you want to go after the things, and it, like with Frank, it doesn't take that long. For facilities management, it didn't take 5 years. It took him to ramp up. He started out with a company that he purchased. He purchased a company that was doing business at Toyota, and he morphed into this construction cleanup from there. That's the kind of thinking, that you had to have. He got something that was making a profit. Gentleman was, transitioning out, so he's got a minority company. And you got to remember, any company that you buy, if you happen to be a woman or a minority-owned business, now that's the designation that they have. So you can buy an existing business, and do that. Another thing that not only acquisitions, but you also want to look at, partnering up for opportunities. If you're a painter and there's a $400,000 job out there and it takes 12 people, you have 8, somebody has 4. Let's get it done. We try to put those kinds of people together and let them get out there and do those things. Those are just the kind of things we do, because there were 2 directors before me. So I did start out with a base. The only thing that was different with me was I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to work with people. I'm selfish. I didn't want to have to go around and politic all over the place. I wanted it to show that if you do this in the way that I want it, you're going to have all the results. And we did. We've done tremendously, and I only know that because the board says so. I know it, but I don't say anything. But the board says so, and my bosses say so. So and people continue to want to work with us because we're honest, and we work. And even people that I'm honest with and they don't agree with me, they turn around, they come back later. When they think about it, they come back later. And it's not that I'm always right. I let them talk to a whole bunch of people. You want to start a restaurant in Lexington? I'm going to send you to. I've got 2 of the most successful restaurants in Lexington. I'm going to beg you. If you're going to take your retirement money and put it in something like that, something as volatile as a restaurant, I want you to go work with these 2 high volume people, and they will work with you. They've been chamber members forever. They will work with you, and then I want you to come back and tell me, what you want to do with the restaurant business. If you're convinced, then If you understand food cost and variance, if you understand waste and all that kind of stuff, have at her.
I laugh over here. Everybody needs a Tyrone. One thing I learned about Tyrone when I first got to Lexington is you need somebody that's candid with you. You need somebody that cares but is very upfront. And he's always been that guy to say, it sounds good, but I don't think you're ready yet. And but he also makes that commitment to get people ready. I'll add a couple more things on the toolkit for success. A lot of people have good ideas about what they're doing, and they might even have the some of the skill set on what they're doing, but are they really ready to go and start the business? And one of the things that we talk about at times, if you have the idea, whether it's whether your skill set is chef, whether your skill set is being a realtor, or you think you will be good at being a realtor, whether it's beautician, whatever it may be, carpentry, electrician, whatever it may be. Everybody thinks I have the idea and now I want to go work for myself. But one of the things we talk about is going in-house somewhere where you get a chance to be part of an established business to be able to hone that skill and do that work without worrying about payroll, taxes, not just taxes to the state government, federal government, but city taxes, where you don't have to worry about business licenses and where you don't need the upfront money to get your equipment going, but going somewhere in-house. So for example, when I had clients that came in with ideas about, because they were very good at cooking food and skill set, but my first thing is, why don't you go manage your restaurant first? So you actually learn how to do the business side. I knew how to practice law, and I knew I developed and trained to do that, but I didn't know how to operate a law firm, right? I needed to be part of something before I ever thought about going out and starting my own. The second thing in that toolkit for success, and if our partner was here with us today, what he heard a couple of years ago, and we've been talking about and realizing more, the success is oftentimes more in not starting your own business, but going and buying an existing business that already has success. And then you're able to come in, and as Tyrone and I discussed, it may have been a majority-owned business, but when you buy it, and you get your designations and other, it automatically becomes a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business just because you became the new owner of an existing business that might have been majority-owned a week ago. And then the third thing, and I hate to call him out here, I won't, but one of my mentors who taught me early on in Paducah, who's heard my own business ideas over time of what I wanted to do, he told me tonight, you still haven't done it. But I told him that at UK and in-house, I'm learning that skill set so that one day I can do my own business. The one thing that mentor, I shouldn't say his name, Mr. Crowdis, told me is don't ever grow too fast in what you're doing. You may be good, you may have the relationships, and you'll have people because they trust you and like what you're doing and believe in it to want to bring you the business. But if you grow too fast, all it takes is one bad experience for one person, and it can absolutely ruin your business out of the gate. So he was very intentional in making sure whatever you do it with quality. And I did that even in law practice. Yes, I would love to represent everybody that came in the door, but if I knew that I could not spend the time on each person's case, it may have sounded good to take on all those clients, but if I wasn't delivering quality, A+ quality, all along the way, all it takes is one of you to have a bad experience with me. All it takes is one missed deadline because I was over capacity, and my law business could have been ruined when I was here in Paducah or back in Lexington. So that's three things I would add in the toolkit. So.
Oh, certainly. And I don't want to assume that everybody here is a neophyte. I just, again, we're just talking about our experience and what we've done and how we've assisted people in their growth and sustainability. I think that, the best thing to do is have that first few minutes of consultation and find out where that individual is or where that partnership is, and then try to figure out where they want to go and try to help them. Those are the two things that I do most often. Is just sit down and you're listening and you're trying to figure out how you can help that person or that entity, and sometimes it's stuff I don't know, and so you got to call in You got to, there's 1,900 members there. And then, there are people that I know all around the country. Call them up, say, hey, now we can do a Zoom and we can put this thing together. And we've done it already where I can match them with somebody that I've met somewhere else. And we can talk about that opportunity, spend 30, 40 minutes talking about that opportunity, and then let them decide if they really want to expand into a certain area or they want to, take their existing business and sell it and move into something else, or can they, to be quite honest, some people get tired of the business. They want to do something else. They want to sell it and move on. Well, they'll come to us and say, hey, anybody that wants to do that? That it probably happens about 5 times a year, and that's not something that I'm comfortable doing. Is matching somebody up, but I'll let them talk to somebody that hopefully is in their business, and hopefully I know someone that's in their business, and maybe they kind of talk them out of it, or they tell them how they can sell it. Get with a realtor, whatever it is. But I'm not the one that's gonna make that decision for them. There's just a lot of things that I don't. If you want to be a good have a good fiduciary relationship with people, you really have to know where your lines are, and that's some of the things that I look at. But I would say that if there are any of you that have any questions from anything that we've said here tonight, I'd love to hear them. I hope we can answer them.
They wanted to use the mic to make sure it picks up on the live stream. So,
I have a question about the Access Loan Program.
Yes, ma'am.
Are the interest rate pretty competitive with other banks?
They are, because the lenders are actually the banks. The 2 nonprofits that I have that I did not talk about. I have a nonprofit that will do loans. It's kind of interesting. They came to us, and they will do loans $10,000 and under. It's called Park Community Credit Union, and if you pay as agreed, it's really a building credit loan. They wanted to get into our sphere, so if you get a loan up to $10,000 and you pay as agreed, they will give you your fees back. Now, but the Access Loan Program overall, once we get everything together and put it, it's actually made by bank, so you have competitive rates. And the good thing about it is that when you do that, when we help you with that presentation on a Friday morning, you will go and we have a little system. Whereas on Tuesday, I give everybody to Tuesday because, as I said earlier, everybody has to take that back and get somebody else to look at it, either the loan committee or a president or somebody, to decide whether they want to get involved. So I give them until Tuesday at 4:00. So the last loan that I did in December, the lady had 9 offers. So you go through that, and then you decide what rate is best fits you, because you've got all the banks competing, but they compete in a different way. They don't compete in the room where we're doing the Shark Tank kind of thing. We don't do that. They do it in what I would say is just a more pleasant, because that would be, that's taxing for the owner. What we do is we do it in a way where you can decide to talk to those folks on the phone and have a conversation with them, and then really reflect on what they're offering.
Okay, if I understand you correctly.
Yes, ma'am.
This is the type of loan where just like if I go to a bank,
Mm-hmm.
and that loan officer or whoever's at that bank decides this is different. This goes to, I present my plan.
You're gonna have 19 or 20 lenders in the room.
Okay, and then they may offer me something, a loan with their terms.
By
with
that
their
Tuesday,
terms,
that's correct. Mm-hmm.
And then I choose which one I want to go through.
Yes.
And this is the only difference than going to a regular bank. Well, I'm not going to say regular bank, but for instance,
Well, they're
Paducah
all banks.
So this is okay.
If you looked at the banks on the Access Loan Program, it's all the banks that in our area. U.S. Bank is on there, PNC Bank, Fifth Third, all the regular banks are on there. But what you get to do is that you get to just decipher what's the best thing for you. And there's a lot of things that have to do with amortization schedules and that kind of stuff that if I start talking about that, people here will kill me. But it is the kind of thing where you could sit back and you decide. And see, I think a lot of that, what I try to tell people is that you're really creating a relationship. It's got to be, you have intuition. How did it feel that conversation on the phone? Did they talk at you, or did they talk to you about your opportunity? You might want to go with the person that talks to you, because you want them. You can ask them, hey, are you going to look at my portfolio periodically? Are you going to look at how the money comes into my bank account so that you can offer tools for me that are going to be helpful to me? Right. Do I need a sweep account? I don't even know if those are relevant anymore. But okay, so do I need that kind of thing? They should be doing that for you.
Okay.
This is a commercial loan, so that's what you want to do. You want to, we talk about creating relationships with somebody. So you want to go with somebody that is really trying to help you.
And some of that too is what I've seen the most success before you go into those banks in those 19. If you have a person like Tyrone in his position in the community, you can get that coaching before you go in and make sure, again, your ducks are in a row, T's crossed, I's dotted. And then sometimes it's not just Tyrone, but it's members of the Commerce Lexington board who are committed, or other volunteers and people that Tyrone keeps around him that are willing to play in that coaching role. Maybe not everybody needs it, but it usually helps too.
Well, and remember, we have the partner with the SBDC. They're helping them put together the business plan and financials and stuff. So they're walking with them. And we have, like I said, we have an agreement where they talk to them about creating a partnership with the lender. Get with somebody that you're comfortable with. Because, look, if your business goes down, you're going to need some money. If your business has, say you get something and you have a huge contract and you don't have the money, to fill it, you're going to need some money. That's a good thing. Either one of those things are good, that you have a relationship with somebody you can say, I only go down in October. I have a history of going down in October. So I'm talking to you in September. What can you do to help me fill the gap? Because I still have payroll. I still have all those other things. And if you're a good customer, they're going to help you because they want to keep the whole loan good.
Everybody needs to get to know Aaron back here with the Small Business Development Center, if you're not already.
Yeah.
We have another question here, right here. Oh, no question.
Okay. Just a mic. Now, in reference, you said that out of those 19 banks, one credit report pull instead of 19?
Yes.
Which you won't have that many dings
right
on your credit report. That's a good thing.
That was an agreement that we have with the presidents, correct.
We had another question back here. Bring the mic.
I just wanted to know what a sleep account was. Is that like the savings account?
Hold on. Repeat that question through the microphone, if you don't mind, Tyrone.
I would just like to know what a sleep account is. Is that like a savings account? Is that what you call it?
Sweep.
Like did you say sleep?
Sweep.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
But it's still a great question.
It's a sweep. So it's a revolving line of credit for working capital, say $50,000. It's a line of credit tied to your checking account on a business. So you minimize the interest paid on the line of credit. So as money comes in, it sweeps and pays down your loan daily, and then it'll go back. So you don't have to do advances and then payments on your line of credit. The mechanism automatically does that for you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Another question.
Please.
So as you're thinking about that question, one of the other things I said we wanted to get back to, and we see this a lot, is then how do you have the skill set, you have the business, or you're trying to start the business or get in the door. Another thing that's important for the toolkit for success is that networking and that relationship building. One of the things we see a lot in the Chamber of Commerce world, those of us that volunteer, Tyrone works there, is we think it's a good investment. But people will join the chamber and think that measure the money they paid to the chamber based, their investment is the word I'm looking for. They measure the investment based on whether or not they see some return of business immediately. What is immediately? In the first year or two, they drop back out of the chamber because they're like, I didn't get any clients, I didn't get any referrals, and therefore I'm not going to continue to be part of the Chamber of Commerce or whatever business organization you may be part of. And one of the things, Tyrone, that we talk about is the importance of the networking and the long game and building the relationships. I know that you do some things because you set those up on a quarterly basis, but what advice do you have to folks here about the importance of that networking and that long-term relationship building?
Well, I'm a hardliner, okay? I have two sets of advice. The first thing I told them when I came in, I will not get involved in any programs that offer free memberships to people, okay? Because free memberships don't offer any value. Number one, the people who sell the memberships in the chamber are the only people that work on commission. You know, my salary is going to get paid one way or another. Those people with the free memberships, they, you know, if you give a free membership, that's taking money out of that person's pocket. And remember, these are the people that are out in the street every day talking to other businesses that you would hope that they would say, well, Sarah does that. Let me hook you two up and see if you can do business together. That's the kind. But they're not going to, just humans will be humans. They're not going to do that if you have a free membership because they probably don't even know you. They probably haven't talked to you. They haven't given you that. So that's my first thing. The other thing that I look at is that when you become a chamber member, you have to do it with a strategy. You don't need to go to everything. Pick the things that are good for you. If you want to build your business, we have an opportunity exchange twice a year, but we also have what we call business links. And if you called me up, I would say, based on your business, and sometimes I catch people beforehand and say, hey, this business link is going to be at Lexmark. You need to go. You know, they have a huge facility. All the Lexmark people are going to be there. So you're going to get to talk to a whole bunch of people. This one you should go to. It's available in a couple of weeks. Make sure you sign up. You know, that's my job is to, give people, so they can, at the very least, they can send a good representative that will ask all the right questions and get things moving. That's the way I look at that. And I think the value comes if you pick and choose, and it takes time because if you're creating relationships, you may not become fast friends with somebody, but the second time you meet them, 6 months later, they may go, oh, and now you're friends. People do business with people that they like. I mean, you know this. I mean, and so you just have, and you may, hey, you may see a lot of people you don't want to do business with, may not trust them. So anyway, that's the way I look at that. I mean, you really in a chamber, there's a dichotomy there, and I try to explain to people what I'm for, what I'm not for, and I'll just give them guidance as to what I think that they should do. I think that almost 30 years in business and the 17 years that I've been in the chamber kind of give me some gravitas to do that, and you can take that or leave it.
And the relationship part really is important. It's not just the chamber. We're not here to sell chamber memberships.
No.
Certainly it's a great avenue, but some of you may already be doing this, but getting involved in civic clubs, whether that's Lions Club, Kiwanis, Rotary Club, getting involved in other nonprofit boards. First board I was on in Paducah was the McCracken County Red Cross chapter. Not one that a lot of people knew about or saw about, but I know some of the relationships through that McCracken County Red Cross ended up developing into relationships that opened doors for other opportunities. Ultimately, the Paducah Chamber of Commerce. And again, it wasn't always about the immediate return on business. It was gaining the trust from people that felt I was competent in my field and what I did. It may not oftentimes end up being them that were the business folks. They had attorneys. They may have whatever business you're doing. They may already have their person. But when they meet and talk to somebody else, they say, hey, I've thought about doing business with this person or giving this person a chance. The other thing I will say, knowing Paducah, knowing Lexington, having visited many of the cities that we do on an annual basis, is there's something about folks who want to just be part of the good that's happening in the community. So it's a lot of business, education, nonprofit, other folks. They're not doing it with the idea that I'm trying to get a return on my investment for business. When you go in and people feel like genuinely you're at the table, and you're participating because you're trying to make an impact in the community, it just seems like it's those people that organically end up doing the best. That's where the fruit comes in. People want to have a relationship with you because you don't seem like you're just in it for selfish motives of your own return. You're really trying to make the community better along the way. And some of that comes through, which Tyrone didn't touch on. It's not just paying memberships. It's finding opportunities to give your time or your money back to good causes. That's hard for a lot of us to do as minority businesses, women-owned businesses, because we haven't had the historical success to really build up. So I can't write $1,000 check, but it might make a difference if I write $100 check. And I agree that whoever wrote the $1,000 check to help this school or this initiative, if I say, well, I'll take on mentoring 3 of them, I got more time than I got money. And so I'm giving my time, and where I can, I write the check that I can afford to do because it looks like I'm investing in whatever little success I have. And people are watching that. That's real.
I get more kudos from the Salvation Army for going out and ringing the bell, and I'm not doing anything. I'm just ringing the bell, and they need more people to do that. So, I mean, that's a volunteer opportunity, and people see you. I wanted to say one last thing about the Access Loan Program. The onus is not just on the loan client or the person making the request. When any new banker comes in the program, I have 7. Like I told you, these bankers rotate a lot in Lexington. So I have 7 new bankers coming in. So I have coffees scheduled with all of them, and I will do that before they are allowed to sit down in the Access Loan Program. And I explain to them, this is a volunteer effort that you're taking on. This is not going to be here to build your portfolio. You say you have a portfolio. I have something, I think I have at least 2 guys on it that have $55 million portfolios. This isn't going to help them one way or another, and it's just going to, build on what they have. But, you have to have the right attitude, that you're going to come here, you're going to show up, you're going to ask questions of the individual, you're going to make them feel like they're important. And I talked to the bankers about that. And I've had guys say, man, I don't know if I have time for all that. Well, then you don't have time for Access Loan Program. I had the power to say, you're not in. And when I tell your president that you said you don't have time, we'll see how that goes. Because he's the one that sent you, he or she is the one that sent you over here, to talk to me. So I really want to get them in the right mindset also, so that when we come in, the person feels good. They don't feel put upon. They don't feel like, oh my goodness, you're gonna be nervous anyway. But we're gonna help you through that process, help you put together a 10 to 12-minute presentation along with the Small Business Development Center. And then we're gonna talk about what's important, getting you funded. That's what we're here for. And so that is, those are the things. We try to cover it on all sides. And a lot of stuff is done. A lot of these things I'm talking about is because we've made mistakes. We've made mistakes on people, but I can tell you that we haven't made too many mistakes on loan clients. I've had 2 loan clients in 300 and some odd loans. I've had 2 loan clients lie to me and come up there, make a presentation and say something totally different than what we talked about for weeks, and they didn't get funded. Bye.
I know the hour's growing late, so we're
Yes.
going to stick around afterwards. But the last thing, Kevin, I want Tyrone to touch on is the racial equity pledge that we have back in Fayette County. Just something else to think about. And I know we're talking to the choir here on this one, so we have some work to also get this out to the majority community.
Right, and I don't know if you do that as your chamber. A lot of these things, the Access Loan Program could be put together by, if you think about it, it could be put together by a community group that has some gravitas. It doesn't have to be the chamber. It's just it works better for us at the chamber. But after Breonna and George's murders, what we were able to do is that, through our board chair at the time, we wanted people companies to come together. Remember now, again, we're always a work in progress. We have 31 companies as of today, as we sit here, that have done the pledge that basically says that they will, they agreed to a pledge that they will have consistent racial equity, they will be fair to everyone, and so on. There are 1,900 members in the chamber. So we don't have it all figured out. You know, you got to keep working at it every day. Is what I will say.
But it is a start
Yes, sir.
with getting those companies pledging.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Gentlemen, let's give him a hand.
You were here.
I think I can say, and I think I'd be right, and I think everybody would agree, I think we've got some work to do. I think there's some infrastructure things, just some things that, and not to be critical, I just think it's a time for Paducah and McCracken County that we've got to move to the next level. I mean, I heard a lot of things tonight that I think that somebody's going to have to initiate. And I think we, I know here at the college, are going to take and play our part, be our part, do our part. I know that Dr. Reese certainly, that's his passion, is for, and mine, economic development, minorities and women-owned business development, and continue to grow that. So I know that we're in. So I know Sarah, I know that that Paducah Bank, and we just got some work to do. I do, and you mentioned Aaron Harted once or twice, and I'm going to mention him again. How many know Aaron for what he does here in Paducah and McCracken County in the region? If y'all have, a lot of you have worked with Aaron. He is located in this building. He's been here now little more. Yeah, go ahead and stand up, Aaron. So I'll be honest, true confession. You know, when I knew he was coming to town, I offered space to him because I think that he's in the right spot here to be at the college. So he's very accessible. So I know he's got a card or two if he needs to share them. So gentlemen, we really appreciate what you all provided and shared tonight. There's I know that it's a not a race, but it's just a journey. That's a marathon. That's the one I'm looking for. So we've only just begun, as they say, or we're moving forward. So I do want to present Danny. You guys don't run off yet. As a token of our appreciation, we have an author, Miss Janet Blythe, who is the director of our public relations department. She wrote the book. This is one of three. Excuse me. This is the formative years, 2000-2016, for West Kentucky Community and Technical College. So, Danny, we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Tyrone, come back and see us. And there you go.
Thank you so
And
much.
we appreciate you very much.
I
Again,
really appreciate it.
give my hand. So as we close, I do not want to forget, you do have on your table the rest of the activities for this month, Black History Month. There's 4 great activities after tonight that are still going to be happening, 17th, the 18th, the 23rd, and the 28th. Specifically, what I want you to know about is the one that's on the 23rd. That will be a panel discussion. It will be here in the ETC. It's going to be a panel discussion of successful African-American business women. Shalon Holloway Jeters is one of the panelists. We're going to have, if you'll notice there, we have several. You may recognize Mary Pettis Rowland, Asir Scott, Lynn Chambers, Haley McCoy. Haley is in Lexington. Danny, I think you know Haley, and she's great. She used to be with our college system. But you're going to hear from successful female business owners with 52 years of experience down to 1. That's a big spread. So, yes, Courtney Hammond. Yes, Courtney. Was looking for you earlier. I know that guy. Is that your other half? I got stories. No. Oh my goodness. He goes back to he graduated, went to school with my son. So we gotta do some catching up. But anyway, on the 23rd, again, please come. It's going to be great. It's going to be jam-packed. And again, we just thank you all for attending, and we wish you safe travels home. And until we meet again, let's just keep on moving and shaking, okay? Thank you very much. Oh, don't forget the evaluation. Again, it's not required. So just leave it on the table.